research. I'm audible, Vaishnavi madam?
Yes, sir, you are audible and your screen is also visible. No issues. You can continue, sir.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So today's session, we're going to discuss about this topic, about how we're going to design the questionnaire, what are all the factors to be considered to design the questionnaire. And we also discuss about what are the scaling techniques available to carry out the researches. And finally, we're going to see how we can frame the conceptual framework. If we have some ideas, how we make it as a pictorial representation. So this is the thing we're going to discuss today. So first of all, I want to discuss about what is meant by research. So all know about it. Research is searching for new thing. So this is the iterative process of systematic inquiry that entitled the collection of data. So once the data was collected, then the collected data is to be documented or entered in the some software where we can use some tools and we analyze. After we analyzing, we make an interpretation of the data using some suitable methodology. So this is the research. So today's part is the core part of research. That is, here we're going to discuss about how we're going to collect the data and how we can structure the questionnaires and what are the scaling items which we can added in the questionnaire and what are all the analysis we carry out with the collected data. So this is the today's content which we're going to discuss. So first of all, I want to tell you what is mean by questionnaire. So questionnaire is one of the research tool, or we also call it as a research instrument, which helps the researcher to collect the data from the individuals, that is from the respondents or from the group of people. We create some statements in the questions and we collected the data where we can perform the analysis according to our objective. So that is the main thing. So it is one of the instrument which we can use it by the researchers for the research to collect the data. Okay. So there are different factors which we have to consider while carry outing the research. That is, always we want to clear our objectives so that so we want to clear our objectives and we also have a clear goal of the objectives. So that will helps the researcher to carry out or do the questionnaire design. Oh, that is the one important factors while considering the questionnaire design we have to carry out. Then we want to identify to whom is the target audience. Sometime example we take when we collect the data, like if you want to find the customer satisfaction of ice cream for college students, which means our target audience is the college students. So we want to categorize and identify to whom we going to collect the data. So that is this thing we have to assess while designing the questionnaire, because according to them we have to design the questionnaire. So next important factors is the data which we are collecting is an quantitative data or an qualitative data. Okay, so sometimes we ask the respondents about what is your opinion. You can describe or you can tell your opinion. Like that, we can give some quantitative. We can collect some quantitative data, but most of the time we go for the qualitative data by giving some numbers. Okay, so what is the age, what is the income, you can measure in the Likert scale. Likewise, we will give the numerical data collection. Okay, so always the numerical data will helps the researcher to perform a good research. Okay, so next is the we want to have a clear, easy understanding of the question so that the respondents can easily understand and they can respond to accordingly. Next one, we want to formulate the questionnaire without any biases, because sometimes the unbiased questions will be answered differently, which is not suitable for our data collection or not fit for our data. So that is the thing I have to consider. So next thing is we want to have questions in sequence one by one, starting from some introduction, demographic variable, then main core part. In there also we have to give one by one. Okay, so first part, first sequence, first part of the questions in the part one, second, third, fourth. Okay, so one by one we have to sequence. Next one, we want to choose the appropriate questions type, like it may be an dichotomous questions, or we may give you an options for the questions, or sometimes we give Likert scale for the questions. Okay, so there we want to assess what types of questions to be asked to the questionnaire. Sometimes open-end questions will also be added. So next one, if you give a rating scale or Likert scale questions to the questionnaires, we want to tell whether the Likert scale is measured in the what scale, whether it is a 5-point scale or 7-point scale or 10-point scale. So next one, always keep the number of statements in the questionnaires to be very minimum, because sometimes we will have more number of questionnaires that may create fatigue for the respondents. Sometimes they will not answer for the questions. Next one, once we create an questionnaires, then we have to identify the required items, and we have to conduct a pilot survey, so that whenever we required to make any changes or any minute changes, that will also be happens while we make a pilot test after we framing the questionnaire. That will helps to frame a right questionnaire, okay, with quality statements. Even though we will collect the we make an correction with some expertise, when we make an collection with the respondents, that will create an good questionnaire or quality questionnaires. Next one, we want to clearly communicate to the respondents about why we are collecting, how confidently we are going to have their data. So what is the purpose of collecting the data, everything to be mentioned or to be clearly communicated to the respondents. Either it may be in written format or through an oral format. So always use a clear and organized layout with consistent formatting. Next one, sometime we make an questionnaire for collecting data to the some other people whom they don't know the English language. Okay, so for them, what we have to do is we want to convert or translate the questionnaires which we have framed in English to their language. Okay, so that is also to be done, because the respondents wants to know a clear thing about the questions. Okay, so next one, we want to decide on the mode of collection, how we going to collect the data, either through mail or through interview method or to direct questioning, everything to be known. So these are all the initial contest or factors to be considered by the researchers while designing the questionnaire. Okay, so next one, yes, I already said, always this questionnaire design process is an iterative process, because if we keep on tuning the questionnaire, then it will be refined and it will create an right effective questionnaire for our data collection according to our research objective. So the questionnaire design process is an iterative process. We keep on updating the changes according to our objective or our need. So next, here I'm giving gave some format for framing the questionnaire design. So always this types of questionnaire design will consist of introduction part, and then we will have a main part, and sometime we also have a conclusion part to thanking the respondents. Okay, so what are the things we have to consider in the introduction part? Okay, so there we want to give the title of the research, that is objective of our project, and the next one, what is the purpose of the project? Okay, so how this will helpful for their research activity or to the society or to the industry or to the academic, that is to be mentioned. Then we have to give some instruction, that is how to fill their questionnaires. Okay, so these are all the things we have to added in the part 1. So what is going to added in the part 2? So in part 2, we're going to have two important things. One is a demographic profile of the consumer, and another one is a main core part of the questions, that is the objective questions. Okay. So first, in initial demographic information, we will have your name, phone number, age, gender, education, income, location. So these are all the things we can add it in the demographic information. Okay. So sometime the researcher, what they do is, if they don't want to compare the demographic profile with the objective, they may omit some demographic information and added very few in their questionnaires. Okay. So second part is, this is the main part in the questionnaire. So we call it as a main questions part. So in this format, we will add the open-end questions if we required, or closed-end questions, or the matrix questions. Okay. Nowadays, what we do is, instead of reducing the space to save the spaces, we will start to use the matrix questions. Okay. So here I will give you an examples. So this is the closed or open-end question. So closed-end questions will have in different options where the respondents can tick the what they are. Okay, so what they like, or what they are, or what is their opinion. This is the thing they will mark or tick in the question. Okay, but sometime researcher required more detail about the closed-end question. Okay, so in that cases, what the researcher do is, they will give you an open-end question. Okay, so example, you can see in the last question, please explain why you choose the social media you mentioned above as you are most frequently using. Okay, so there in first part, what we mentioned, which of the following social media platform do you use most frequently, where the researcher click any only one. Okay, like Facebook or Instagram, or sometimes they go for the multiple tick. But if the researcher feel that they want more description about the selection, okay, why they choose an Instagram, or why they choose an Facebook, or why they choose an LinkedIn, in that cases they will go for the open-end question. Okay, so these are all the some additional so these are all types of questionnaires we can add in the questionnaire design. So next one, you can see this is the matrix question. Okay, so nowadays you can see we can list all the variables, and we will list all the Likert scale factors in the top. Okay, and inside we will add the all the factors. Okay, so here you can see how many number of questions in a single matrix, like 1, that is consumption, 2, convenience, then acceleration, brakes, chase, control. Okay, so these are all the 6 variables. Okay, 6 variables we have included in a single matrix question. Okay, so this way we want to add the many statement, and when we want to get the answer in a Likert scale, we want to create that types of question as a matrix question. Okay, so here the researcher or you have to decide what types of questions to be asked to the respondents. Okay, these thing will be done based on the your research objective. So next, how once we frame the, I will give you a small example about the questionnaire design. So I show you my questionnaire itself. That is the questionnaire I have used while I did my PhD during 2018-19. So here you can see this is the questionnaire. This is the type. You can take. You can have this as a sample. You can find the title of the project. This is my title. So examination of service quality and its impact on the customer satisfaction loyalty in apparel retail store in the selected cities of Tamil Nadu. Okay. So this is the introduction part. I have given the topic, my name and my supervisor name. And here I have given how to answer the questions, okay, and how we make this as a confidential one. These details, this is the thing I added in the part 1, okay. So next, in part 2 category, one is a demographic profile where I have added at the last part, okay, like name, gender, age, education. Okay, so these are all the closed end questions, okay, where the respondents can select only within the options, okay, that we call it as an closed end questions. And I also have the matrix question. Here you can see this is in one part of my variable where I have 8 statement. For this, I have created a matrix question. This will save the space while we create a questionnaire design. Okay, and also it is attractive, and this is also easily helps the respondents to respond quickly. So you can see I have created many things. That is, all my dimensions is under the matrix question, and all the questions will comes under the closed end type except the name. Okay, so this is an open type. Other things will be a closed end type, and remaining all are comes under the matrix question. So next one, how we want to collect the questionnaire. Okay, so how we going to collect the questionnaire? Sometime we work on the self-administrative type where we will collect the questionnaire through mail or through the personal contact. Okay, so that is the one type where we can collect the data. So and another second type, it is an in-person or face-to-face. Here, the in-person interview involves the researchers or interviewer directly interacting with the respondents to ask the questions, and they can record the respondents' data in the questionnaire. Okay, so this is the in-person face-to-face interaction. Okay, so personally they will meet and they will collect the data. But in previous time, we will send the mail to the mail, or we will give the questionnaire to the respondents. They will fill the questionnaire. And last one is the telephonic type where we're going to call the respondents through mobile phone or through telephone, and we will conduct the survey over the phone, and we collect the data and we will fill it in the questionnaire. Okay, so this is another format of collecting the questionnaire. So next, this thing to be valid information while collecting the questionnaire. So this is something we repeat. What are the factors to be considered to make an questionnaire design? So this you can go through in the PPT while we sending. So next part is scaling techniques. So scaling techniques, which means how we will collect the data. That is the things called, we call it as a scaling technique. So it is the method used in research to assign value or score to the object. Okay, like example, we ask what is the gender of the respondents, which means we mention male or female. The respondents will take any one. Okay, so like, or we may ask rate the satisfaction level of any product. Okay, so in 5-point scale, where we will give an value as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and for every point we give some description. Okay, so there they have to assign value in the questionnaire. Okay, so this we call as an scaling techniques. Okay, so next one is there are different classification in scaling techniques. We call it as a choice and measurement of respondents. Okay, so there are 3 category. One is a nominal scaling, a second one is an ordinal scaling, and third one is a numerical scaling. So what is mean by nominal scaling? Here whenever we want to identify some variables, okay, like what is your name, what is your name, roll number, what is your ID number, what is your employee ID, what is the gender, there we can have the data only for identification and not for anything else. Okay, so like what is your roll number, like 34, so 34 is your roll number, which means we can identify the person, that's all. Okay, so there will be a no ups or downs in the variable, that is respondents option. But you can see in the second category, ordinal scale. So in the ordinal scale, it involves ranking or ordering the data. Okay, so here we're going to give some order for our options in the each questions. Okay, like Likert scale, like educational attainment, 10th standard, UGP, GPHD, or like we give what is your position in the organization. Okay, like a low level, up, medium, and up level, like this we can give, there will be in some order. So third is an interval scaling. So interval scaling includes ordered category with equal interval between them. Okay, so example, when we want to check what is the temperature of the some furnace. Okay, so there we can mention some Celsius or in the Fahrenheit. Oh, okay, so we also mention what is the IQ score of the respondents or the student or some children's. There we collect the data. Similarly, Likert scale with the numerical value will comes under the interval scaling. So fourth category is in ratio scaling. So in ratio scaling, there will be a high level of measurement. Always here we will have a true value of 0 starting from 0. Okay. So here the data will be collected like what is your age. When you ask that, they will mention the age. Okay. Or what is your income, what is the height, weight, distance, time, everything. This will comes under the category of ratio scale. So these are the four important scaling techniques which we have used in the research activity. Okay, so normally nominal scaling will not helps to do any much analysis, but ordinal and scaling data will helps, numerical scaling will helps the respondents, or sorry, helps the researcher to carry out more number of analysis. So here I have given what are the different types of scales, and I also given what types of analysis we carry out with each types of scaling data. Okay, if it is a nominal data like gender, education, sorry, gender, then marital status, where we can perform only the percentage analysis, or we can find the mode, median. And if it is an interferential statistic, we can perform a chi-square. So next one is an ordinal scale, where we can carry out the median, percentile, and also with the help of ordinal scale, we also work on ANOVA, correlation, everything. Then in interval scale, we can perform range, mean, standard. Then in ratio scale, we can perform geometric mean, harmonic mean, and coefficient of variations. Okay, so these are the some statistical tool we can use it with the scale which we framed in the questionnaire design. So next one is a different classification of scaling techniques. Here the scaling techniques was divided into two categories, but in most of the cases we used the Likert types of scale. Okay, like a 5-point Likert scale, 7-point Likert scale, or 10-point Likert scale. This is the thing we use mostly. But when we take, there are an n number of scaling techniques available in the research, but we perform mostly the Likert scale type. Okay, so like example, you can take in the paired comparison. So here, what the respondents are asked to do is, we asked to compare two or more items in terms of some specific dimension. Okay, so that we called as a paired comparison. Okay, so next one is in rank order. So in rank order, we will list the variables and ask the respondents to rank the items. Okay, so like example, we list the items like we want to do some research activity on the mobile phone. We want to assess some variables in the mobile phone. Okay, so thereby we ask the respondents to rank some variables like battery life, camera quality, price, brand reputation. If we take these four variables and ask them to rank, that the respondents will rank one by one, which the respondents will be which they give a more priority. So next one, constant sum scale. This is the one type where we want to allocate some points to the questionnaire and ask the respondents to divide the points among the n number of variables. Okay, so that we call it as a constant sum. Okay, example, we give 100 points to the respondents and ask them to allocate for each variable. Okay, like one people may allocate 50 points for one variable, another 30, 20, 10. This way they will allocate the point for the variables. Next one is in Q sort. These types of techniques will be used by the respondents. Here the researcher give the data to the respondents and with a set of statement and ask the respondents to categorize them into a group based on some similarity. Okay, so that we call it as an Q sort. But most of the time, the researcher used some measuring scales like Likert scale or paired comparison or rank order. This is the thing mostly used by the respondents. Okay, so second category in non-comparative scales, there are two types. One is a numeric or continuous rating scale, and another one is an itemized rating scale. So where we can use the Likert scale, you all know the Likert scale is an where the respondents indicate their agreement or satisfaction level or their opinion or judgment using a scale with multiple respondents. Okay, like we will measure the agreement of respondents for the variable. Okay, so there they can start from strongly agree to the strongly disagree from 1 to 5 point. Okay, so there the respondents will tick according to their opinion. So next one is an semantic differential scale where the respondents rate an item or concept on a set of bipolar objectives. Okay, so between good and bad, between satisfaction and dissatisfaction, there they will make an point or mark in between the gap. So these are all the some additional scaling techniques available in the research. According to your requirement, on questionnaire design, you can select the what is required for your research. So next thing we're going to discuss about the main part of the research, that is conceptual framework. So what is conceptual framework? So it is an written or visual presentation. Okay, so example, initially what you do is you will make an literature review. You collect the data from the different sources and thereby you identify the research gap and you compare the research gap with the literature review and you find the objective for your research. Okay, so this is the thing initially you do. Okay, so after you identify the objective, next important thing what you have to do is you want to frame a conceptual framework for your research activity. Okay, so it is in some pictorial representation of your complete research. Okay, so if you want to make or you want to assess something, so that is to be converted into a diagram. Okay, so your objective to be converted into a pictorial representation that helps you to make a complete research process. Okay, so that we called as a conceptual framework. Okay, so I will give you a small example. So these are all the theoretical thing. And so always the research process is the conceptual framework. So where does the conceptual framework fit is? And it is like pre-planning our research. Okay. So before we carry out the research, we want to know what are all the things to be considered in our research and how we going to model our research and what are all the things comes under the dependent variable and what will comes under the mediating variable and what will comes under the independent variable. Okay, so this is the pre-planning action done by the researcher before carry outing the research. So it will establish the tentative relationship between the dependent and independent variable, and it also helps to find the interrelationship between the variable also. Okay, if you want to assess the interrelationship between the variable, that will be assessed or created by the conceptual framework. So always you can see in the research model, we will have in two variable. One is a dependent variable and another one is an independent variable. This all know. So independent variable, we call it as a decision variable, which helps to make the decision or which helps to create a result for our objective. And result variable is the outcome of our study that we call it as a result variable. Okay. But nowadays, what we are doing is we are adding many variables and we will check the mediating role played by the variables between independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay. So most of the time, our research will also add on with the mediating variable. So what is the purpose of conceptual framework? Okay. So main purpose is we want to identify the relevant variable. Okay. Like what are the dimensions we going to consider to carry out the research with respect to the research objective. Okay. Once the research objective was created, thereby we going to collect the variable name. Once we finalize the research problem, then we want to identify the relevant variables which contribute for our problem. Next one, we want to define the variable name. Okay. And then have an idea of analyzing what we have to do between the variable, how we can analyze between the variables. So here I have given a small example of conceptual framework. Here you can see in left side, you can see the different dimensions of service quality. Okay. And right hand side, you can see customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. Okay. Like if you want to do a research on examining the service quality and its impact on customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. If this is our topic, first we want to identify what are all the dimensions of retail service quality. Okay, so here I have listed out 5 different dimensions of service quality. Tangibility, it is one variable. Reliability, responsiveness, assurance is the 4th variable, and 5th one is an empathy. Okay, if you want to assess the dimensions of retail quality and its impact on customer satisfaction and customer loyalty, first thing is we want to identify the variables which comes under the service quality. That is, these are all the dimensions of the service quality. Okay, so next thing, we want to assess how this service quality create an impact for the customer satisfaction. Then we want also assess the how these dimensions of service quality will impact the customer satisfaction. Okay, so here we can find the relationship between service quality dimension and customer satisfaction, and second one is service quality dimensions and the customer loyalty. Okay, so here you can also see there is an arrow mark from the customer satisfaction to the customer loyalty. Okay, so here what the researcher want to do is they want to find the relationship between the 2 dependent variables. That is, how the customer satisfaction create impact to the loyalty of the customer. Okay, how they are loyal, whether all the satisfied customers are loyal or there is some deviation in the collected data. Okay, so that will also be assessed. Okay. So before we create the conceptual framework, and the researcher has to identify the theoretical framework through the literature review. Okay, that is who other related research carry out in the previous years or previous days. Okay, so if we want to do some research on service quality, we want to check what are all the other additional researches carry out in the service quality and how the model was created, what are all the variables considered for the assessment. So this we call it as a theoretical framework where we study the research and determined what are all the variables involved in the past researches, and we want so going to assess what is the statistical relationship created between the variable. Okay, so this theoretical framework to be assessed initially before carry outing the conceptual framework. Okay, so I will give you a small example. So while listing the variable, we're going to consider some past data. Okay, so here you can find in many items or many variables of the research. Okay, so this is the item example. This stores as modern looking equipment and fixture. Okay, so this will comes under the dimensions of physical appearance. Okay, so where I have picked this dimension. Okay, so the origin is RS retail service quality scale dimensions by the Bolker. Okay, so during 1996, he have created a model with the physical appearance. So I have picked this dimension from the existing research. Okay, from this RSQS model, I have picked this dimension and the statement. Okay, so next one. You can see third. Okay, so the store atmosphere, which was not included in the RSQS dimension, but I have picked from the some other research. Okay, so from this model I have picked these items and I have included these items in the physical appearance dimension. Okay, so likewise initially we want to collect all the variables from the past research, and also we want to identify what this relation physical appearance relation create a relationship with the some other dependent factor that is also have to assess initially. So here I have given you some difference between the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework. So this you can go through in the slide, and that is how we have to create the theoretical framework from the study, and after we assess and identify the different variables and the relationship, and how with that how we going to convert it into a conceptual model. Okay, so I will give you an example of conceptual model also. So these are all the steps involved in developing a conceptual framework or a conceptual development. First, we want to identify the relevant concept. Okay, that is concept is like objective or a model. Then we want to define those objective. And then we want to identify what are all the variables which intervening to the dependent variable. Whether we will have only a dependent variable which going to intervening the dependent variable, or we have some mediating or moderating variable which may helps to identify or assess the dependent variable. Then we want to identify the relationship between the each variable. Maybe we going to find the interdependent interdependent relationship with the independent variable, and we also create an relationship between the independent variable with the moderating variable and independent variable with the dependent variable, or from mediating variable with the dependent variable. Okay, sometime we also have we will identify the relationship between the variables in moderating variable or between the variable in dependent variable. Okay, so how we can make the conceptual framework? Okay, so conceptual framework will be framed. Um, Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So how what are the specific form might we have to consider while creating a conceptual framework is we want to draw a diagram. Okay, so that pictorial representation, it may be like a flow chart or sometime like a tree diagram. Sometime it may be a mind mapping like, or sometime a soft system. Okay, so these are all the way we can create our pictorial representation of the conceptual model or the proposed research model. So here I have given you a small example for tree chart. So where here we want to assess something related to consumer behavior, changing consumer behavior, their expectation of product. Okay, so what is the changing consumer behavior, and what are the list of dimensions which will comes under the changing consumer behavior, like experience, value, lifestyle, demographics. And similarly, we also identified what is their expectation from the product which they purchased, like quality, price, purchasing information. Okay, so these are all the things. This way we can create the conceptual model. This we call it as a tree chart. So here you can see this we call it as a sequential diagram. Mostly all the researchers work towards these types of sequential diagram, where they can easily plot the diagram with independent variable, moderating or mediating variable, and the final dependent variable. So here I have given you a small example of how the conceptual framework, that is how we can create our proposed research model. Here I am going to consider only two variable. One part is an independent variable and another part is an dependent variable. Okay, so here independent variable is the some dimensions comes under what is the expectation of the employees. So this participation, then treatment, career, recognition, these are all the something it comes under the employee expectation. Okay, that is how the organization allowed to participate in making decision or participating in various activities while performing the business. And second one is how they are treating the employee. How next one is what is the career development in the organization, and the next one is what is the recognition given to the employee when they do better job. So these are the some expectation, employees expectation. So next is another thing is an dependent variable. Here I have considered two dependent variable. One is an employee satisfaction and another one is an employee loyalty. So once we frame the proposed research model, uh, next is we want to create a statement for each variable. Okay, so example, I will give you an example with my own research. I will show my model and then I will go how to create hypothesis in the model and how we identify the relationship between the variables in the model. So this is my model. Whether it is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is my PhD research model, and the topic is a study on retail service quality and its impact on customer loyalty in apparel retail store in selected cities of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so here you can see how I have identified my independent variable, and also I have identified some mediating variable, and based on that I concluded with my final decision, so final decision variable, that is a final dependent variable. Okay, so my objective is I want to find the impact of customer loyalty, how the customers are loyal for the product. Okay, so this is my problem identification. Then what I do, then I started to make a theoretical framework by doing many literature review studies, and thereby I have identified the many statements contributing to the loyalty of the customer loyalty. Okay, so these are my independent variable, like physical appearance, store convenience, then reliability, personal interaction, how the employees solving the problem in the retail, apparel retail outlet, then what is their store policy, like exchanging of dresses or some other store policies, then value added services, then discount on promotion activity in the retail outlet. Okay, so these are all the independent variable I have identified. Okay, so then I have identified the mediating variable. Okay, how this mediating variable act as an mediator between independent variable, and how this will help me to conclude my research problem. That is how it helps me to identify the loyalty of the customer. Okay, so I have added the three mediating variable. One is in store image, okay, their reputation or anything, and their brand, their name of the retail outlet, that will comes under the store image. Then perceived value about the store image. Then how the customers are satisfied with the service provided by the uh, retail outlet. Okay, so this we call it as an customer satisfaction. So this will act as an moderating or mediating variable between independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay, so next important thing is, once the model was framed, then we want to create an hypothesis. Okay, so hypothesis is the next important thing have to do by the researcher. Yeah. So hypothesis development. Okay, so you all know what is meant by hypothesis. So hypothesis is the simple instrument used in research for making assumption between the variables. Okay, so this we call it as an assumption. Okay, so hypothesis, we create some statement. Okay, so that statement will explain about the relationship between the variable. Okay, so I will give you a small example with my research model. So here you can see first hypothesis I have framed is H1. Okay, H1A. Okay, so H1A is an first hypothesis I have framed. So what is that hypothesis is, I want to find the relationship between the physical appearance and the and the dependent variable attitude loyalty. Okay, so this is the first hypothesis I have framed. I will also show you an how I have listed the hypothesis for my research model, so that it is easy for you to frame an hypothesis question for your model. Okay, so this is the first objective. Okay, so I have make an assumption that is the physical appearance of the retail outlet has direct impact or direct influence on the attitude loyalty. Okay, so this is my first hypothesis. I want to check whether this create any impact on the attitudinal loyalty. Okay, so here you can see in my model the physical appearance. I have marked the arrow here, and I make an identification and find the relationship between physical appearance influence directly influence the attitudinal loyalty or not. Okay, so this will be an one assumption I want to assess or I want to check in my research. Okay, similarly I want to create an store convenient and how this will create influence on the attitudinal loyalty. Similarly for all my four independent variable. Okay, so whether these four independent variable make any impact on attitudinal loyalty. I have checked with each independent variable. Okay, so you can also see after I did that, I will also assess the how the each and every independent variable make an impact on my mediating variable. Okay, so how this independent variable create an impact on mediating variable. Okay, so this is the second part. Next one, I have assessed how my mediating variable will make an impact on the dependent variable. Okay, so this is my next assumption. Okay, like store image have an influence on attitudinal loyalty or not. Similarly, perceived value have an impact on attitudinal loyalty or not. Okay, similarly customer satisfaction impact on the attitudinal loyalty. Okay, similarly I have assessed for all my mediating variable with the behavioral loyalty also. Okay, so this is the way you can create the assumption, that is hypothesis, and you find the relationship, that is whether it will create influence with the other variable or it will not create any influence on the other variable. Okay, likewise you have to assess. Okay, so this is the way we have you can create the hypothesis for okay. So always the hypothesis will be fixed on the two way. One we call it as a null hypothesis. And there we will give the two variables or not create any significant difference between the two. Okay. So example, we take the salary impact on the happiness of the consumer. We want to create a null hypothesis, that is the salary have no significant relationship with the happiness. That is the null hypothesis we have to frame. And we also want to frame the alternative hypothesis, that is this salary, okay, salary earned by the employee have significant relationship with the happiness of the employee. Okay, likewise you have to create both null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. Okay, this we called as an research hypothesis, where we find the relationship between the two variables. So next, after you have created the model, so next thing what the researcher have to do is he has to evaluate the scale he has created. Okay. Hello. Hello. I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible. You can continue,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No issues.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So once we create a model and once we framed yeah questionnaire, then we have to evaluate these scales. Okay, So the scales will be evaluated in two different category by assessing it. Okay. So that is, we have n number of statement in our dimension. Whether the dimension, whether the statement will really have effectiveness in the dimension or not. Okay, so that is the thing we can assess or evaluate the instrument or the scale. Okay, so here it will be done with the help of two important category. One is an reliability and the second one is an validity. Okay, so this is the two important way we can validate our scale. Okay. So first one, reliability. You all know the reliability. It refers to the consistency and stability of the measurement obtained using a scale. Okay. So this is the reliability. So reliability means we want to check the consistency of the statement involved in the research or in that particular variable. Okay. So that is the reliability. Okay. So this will be done with the help of three different way. One is test retest reliability. What here the researcher want to do is he use an same questionnaire, collect the questionnaire as he going to collect the questionnaire to the respondents in two different time. Okay, so two different time period he collect the data. Okay, so here there is a researcher can identify whether both the time the researcher has respondents has given the same value or not. Okay, so this we called as an test retest reliability. Next one, alternative form, or that is here they create a separate questionnaire with similar variable with rephrasing statement. Okay, so that is also another way we can collect the data from the respondent and assess whether both the time or both in both the questionnaire he has given the similar types of respondents. Okay, so next one is an internal consistency reliability. Here, this is the thing always we do in the research, that is we assess the Chrome-Pack alpha. Okay, so if you know SPSS, always we work on the testing the reliability scale using the Chrome-Pack alpha value. So next one is the validity. Okay, so validity means at what extent to which a scale measures the specific attitude or the construction. Okay, so it is important thing or important validation to be carried out while performing our or while creating our research model. So there are different types of validity, like content validity, criteria related validity, then construct validity. Okay. Then we also have an convergent or discrimination validity. Okay. So these are all the different types of validity. Most probably we work towards the construct validity in our research. Okay. So I have given you a small example of validating our data. That is how we validate, how we identify the normality of our data. Then what are the and how we going to assess the reliability of the data, and also how we going to assess the validity of our collected construct. Okay. So here you can see the normality is tested using skewness and kurtosis. Okay, so this test you can easily conduct through the SPSS software. Okay, so SPSS software helps to identify the normality of the data. Okay, so here you can see there are n number of statement contribute to family demand, and there are some n number of data contribute to the family resources. Okay, so here the SPSS assess the skewness and kurtosis, and based on this we can easily identify whether the collected data is normally distributed or not. Okay, So if the value is between plus or minus 2 range, then we can confirm the data collected is under the normality. That means it create a normal distribution curve among the collected variable data. So how we do in validity and reliability? Okay. So reliability, we already said it will be done through Chrompack Alpha using SPSS. But validity is done through CR and AVE. Okay, CR is an construct reliability and AVE is an average variance extraction. I will give you a small example. That is how I have identified my skewness and kurtosis. That is how I have identified my normality. Okay. So this is the, you have already seen, I have an important dimension called physical appearance. Okay. I have here I have mentioned only 3 sample datas and also the value of the samples. Okay. If this collected skewness value and the kurtosis value is between plus or minus 2, then we conclude this data confirm the normality. So next one is in reliability and validity. So here I have conducted an confirmatory factor analysis to identify the validity as a reliability and validity for my dimension. So the dimension is in physical appearance. Okay, this is one independent variable. So I have 7 statement in the physical appearance. Okay, so this 7 statement contribute to the physical appearance dimension. I identify the factor loading for each the statement. Then I also find the reliability test. That is, I have identified the Chrompack alpha value for this 7 statement. Then I assessed the CR value and AVE value. Okay, so this I have assessed in the Excel. So next is I assessed the confirmatory factor analysis. I make a confirmatory factor analysis in the same model and identified how this factor loading that is how the each and every statement, that is PA1, PA2, PA3, PA4, PA5, PA6, PA7, make an right construct of physical appearance dimension. Okay, so this I did through SEM model, that is confirmative factor analysis. So this is the way we can assess the reliability and validity of the each and every dimension. So next I want to discuss with you is, so what are all the related tests available in the research according to the different scale data which we have collected. Okay, so if it is a metric data or if it is a non-numeric data, that is numeric or non-numeric, what are all the samples we have collected and what are the tests we can do with the available data. Okay, so this is the pictorial graph which shows what types of samples will helps to create and what types of analysis. Okay, we collected some data, on what basis we have collected the data and how that will helps to identify the tools and make the analysis. So normally there are 2 different statistical tests available in the research. One is an parametric test and second one is a non-parametric test. Okay. So in parametric test, how we have to identify whether this data will perform a parametric test or how the collected data have to perform the non-parametric test is, we want to identify the normality of the collected data. If the collected data conform to the normality, then it means the data collected is normally distributed. Okay. So when it is identified and conformed, we can perform mean, standard deviation, proportion, and we also use a statistical tool like t-test, ANOVA, correlation. Everything will be carried out using a parametric test. Okay. But there are some cases the collected scale data will not fit into the normal distribution. Okay. So for that also we have a few statistical tests like chi-square, Mann-Whitney U test, then Wilcoxon sign rank test, Spearman correlation test. These are the some additional statistical tests we can perform if our collected data will not come under or confirmed under normality. So here it is a multi-techniques classification. So multivariant techniques is classified into two categories. One is an dependent techniques and another one is an independent techniques. Different techniques always we find the relationship between the variable. It may be an metric variable or non-metric data. We perform an dependent techniques. So independent techniques will be used when we have an collected n number of variables and we want to identify the interdependence between the variables. Then we going to perform the interdependence techniques. Okay. So this is the consolidation of analysis or tools which we used for analysis. So this will be mostly helpful for your research activity because in this slide we easily identified what are all the types of variable, and if that is the types of variable, what analysis or tools which we can use to perform an analysis. Okay. So first you can see if the both the variable is a categorical variable. Okay. So here we going to divide the variable into two types. One is a categorical variable, another one is a numerical variable or metric variable. Okay. So in metric variable, it will be divided into dependent variable, independent variable, or moderating variable. But in overall, we going to categorize into only two. One is a categorical variable and another one is a metric or numeric variable. Okay. So categorical variable normally all the nominal scale questions or comes under this category. If we want to get the collected data or variable is in categorical type, we can perform a chi-square analysis. Okay. Like example, I want to find the relationship between income of the consumer and the types of mobile used. Okay. So you can see income of the consumer, it is also a categorical variable because here we collect the income in a group format. Okay. So another one is an category, another variable is an types of mobile used. Okay. So both these will be comes under the categorical variable where we can only perform a chi-square. Okay. So in another case, we have a numerical or metric variable. On another side, we will have a categorical variable. Okay. So example, on one side, we are having a Likert scale value that we call as a metric value. where the respondents give the value between 1 to 5. Okay, so that we call as an metric value. Okay, on another side, we have a categorical variable like gender. Okay, so gender is an one categorical variable with two groups. Okay, so one variable, it is a metric variable, and another variable, variable 2, is an categorical variable with only two groups. Okay, if this is the thing you are having as a collected data, so what analysis we can perform means we can perform an independent sample test to find the relationship between the categorical variable, gender, and the metric variable which we collected from the Likert scale. Okay, like satisfaction of the consumer. Okay, and the categorical variable is in gender. Okay, there we find out whether the opinion about the satisfaction level differ between the male and female. Okay, so here we have only two groups, whether male opinion is differ from the female or not. Okay, that will be performed through an independent sample t-test. Okay, similarly, we have one side is a metric variable or numerical variable, another side have a categorical variable with more than two groups. Okay, so if that is the case, we can perform a one-way ANOVA. Okay, so if both the cases is a metric variable, we can perform a correlation or regression. Sometimes we have a dependent variable and independent variable. Only one dependent variable, and we have many independent numerical variables. There we can perform a multiple regression. Okay, so if we have more than one metric variable, more than one metric variable, and grouping the, and we want to group that variable. Okay, so for that cases we can perform a factor analysis. Okay, so when we want to segment the respondents or the customer with some metric variable, we can perform a cluster analysis. Okay, so sometime we have categorical variable, that is only one dependent variable as a variable, and another one is a metric variable with many independent variable. There we can perform a discriminant analysis. Okay, so these are all the some important thing or analysis you can perform with the help of different scale variables. Okay, okay, so that's all about the today's session. Thank you all. I will give you a small overview what we discussed today. So today we discussed about the questionnaire design. That is, what are all the factors we can consider in the while designing the questionnaire, and what are all the format we can added in the questions. What are all the different types of questions? Then how can we collect the questions? Okay, and how we can structure our questionnaire. Okay, so that is the first part we have discussed. Second part, scaling techniques. That is, when we add the questions in the questionnaire, how we can scale the data. Okay, whether it is a nominal or ordinal or a numerical value like interval and the ratio. Okay, so this is the second part we discussed. So with respect to your need, with respect to your interest, you can frame the different scaling techniques. Okay, so next one we discussed is the conceptual model. That is how we want to frame our research model. Okay, so how we going to how we identify the variables, and how whether that variable comes under the independent variable or dependent variable, where we have collected the variable, what are all the source we have collected the variable. When we collecting the data through literature review, we also have to assess during that research, during the researcher perform the past research, whether they find any relationship between the variable or not. Okay, next we also discuss about how we make our analysis. Okay, what are all the tools we can use it in the collected data. Okay, so these are all the thing we discussed today. Okay, So that's all about the today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask so that we can discuss, and that will help the others to understand their requirement also.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello, sir. Tell me, sir.
I am Chandrasekhar from Venkateswara University, Tirupati.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Sir, there is a in most of the social science research books,
Okay.
questionnaire they says that questionnaire is meant for only for male. Then interview schedule is for collecting by the researcher through personal interview. Can you comment on this one?
So I can't understand. There are
You
different
see,
method of collecting the data.
most of the social science books,
Okay.
questionnaire meant for collecting data through mail only,
Okay.
whereas collecting data from person to person, we have
Okay.
to use interview schedule. Interview
Sir,
schedule.
right, sir. The
Ah,
reason is
ah,
because you are going into the market.
ah,
You identifying some respondents, that is, you identified some customer who will be your respondent.
ah.
But most of the time, the respondents will not respond to you due to their busy schedule.
Yes.
There, what you have to do is you want to get appointment, you wait some time, and
Hmm.
you collect the data through the personal contact. That is face to face. You see the respondents and fill the questionnaire what you have framed.
Ah. So in
But
most of
in
the tell me.
but in mail category, you can see you can
Hmm.
send the mail to them. You can send the Google form to them
Hmm.
Sir Prakash
whenever
sir,
they are
I think
free.
sir actually here it is mail means
Hmm.
it is sending by courier or letter. Actually,
Yeah.
sir has
Correct.
asked about
Yes.
in that
Exactly.
means only
Exactly.
because most of the books are written by 10 years, 15 years back. They have mentioned about mail. Mail means not in email, sending the questionnaire
By
through
post.
letter format or it is in the courier format. Nowadays only we are
Hmm.
prepare the questionnaire using Google form and we are sending the Google form through mail. That is different story. I think Chandrasekhar sir has confused about the terminology used by the name of mail. So that is the meaning, sir, in the social science book.
Okay. Thank you.
The present is it has changed, sir, because nowadays what we doing is we create a questionnaire in a Google form format. We are sending the Google form format to the respondents and we are collecting the data.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, any other questions related to how to frame a conceptual model or how to validate the data or how to frame an hypothesis?
Hello, sir. This is Moni Yadav. Hello,
You tell me, ma'am.
sir. I want to ask कि is there any tool to develop a conceptual framework?
So there is no software which create the conceptual framework. So it is purely depends on the past studies like literature review. Okay. So you study many literature review and each and every research paper you can collect the model. Then you restructure the collected model according to your research problem. So that is the only way we can create a conceptual framework. Morning, madam.
Okay,
Whether
sir.
whether you have Understand it?
Okay,
There is
okay,
no
sir.
software because
Okay,
we are framing relationship between the variable. The software is not able to identify whether that dimension or variable will fit to that particular places. It will be identified by assessing in the real market.
okay, sir.
Any other question? As one of the participants has given you another idea, so you can use ChatGPT for your research and you can get the conceptual framework. So ChatGPT, it is also one of the like tool, but it give the opinion. We don't know whether that opinion given by that ChatGPT is right or wrong. Okay, so it is the opinion given by AI. Okay, it is similar like an expert or an individual how we create a framework. Aishwarya madam, yeah, tell me ma'am. Aishwarya Raghavi madam, you have raised the hand. Any question ma'am? So how can we develop the pictorial form of conceptual and theoretical framework? We have already discussed. So through existing research and according to our needed problem, we can create a pictorial representation of our proposed conceptual model. How you perform validity hands-on, so that I have already discussed through CR and AVE value, we can identify the validity. So reliability and validity will be performed through confirmatory factor analysis or through Chromfac alpha value or through CR and AVE value. Any other question?
Sir, can you please give us a brief introduction for the confirmatory factor analysis? Uh, some assumptions and some aspects related to how to perform this in the SPSS. Can you please?
Yes, ma'am. We are going to conduct the workshop for a SIM model. Actually, last 3 months back also we have conducted. There we helps you to that we going to give you in detail about what is SIM, what is AMOS, and how to perform a confirmatory factor analysis, and how to convert this conceptual framework into a real model, and what are all the values contributing in the model, and how with the value how we going to assess and conclude or make an interpretation. Everything we going to discuss, ma'am. We're going to arrange the next workshop. It is fully about SIM and AMOS. You try to attend that types of program, ma'am, where you can easily know what is confirmatory factor analysis, and through that how we can validate our data.
Sure, sir.
So to find the CR value and AV value, you can Google the Excel format. Okay, so if you want to assess the CR value and the AV value, you can download the Excel sheet in the Google. You just give the loading value and it will give the CR and the AV value. You can use that MS Excel. Anything else? Vaishnavi madam?
I'll post the third day feedback link so that after that we can wind up. Thank you for great session, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. We will upload the PPT and the material so you can go through, which you may help for your research activities. Thank you.